Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Why Silver, Why Now? My name is Jodi Parker, and I will be your host for this evening. But we are going to have some visuals. You're not going to be looking at me the entire time, and I am going to be joined by my longtime friend and colleague, Ian Ferrar. But first, I'm going to give you guys an overview of what is happening in the financial world right now to give you an idea of why silver, why now is a good choice. I do have down here on my laptop a presentation that I am going to share with you all. Here we go. And I have to hit, hold on, host. It's asking me if it's okay that it's being recorded. I'm going to hit play. And here we go. Continue to share. And here we go. So look at that fun fade in. I had fun with this today. Why silver? Why now? I do have to do the whole disclaimer. This is for educational purposes only. Please consult with a trusted financial professional when making financial decisions. We do have to throw that in there. These are your hosts for tonight. I'm Jodi Parker. That's Ian Ferrar. I will bring him up shortly, but first we're going to go through some information for all of you. So, looking at a market snapshot. This is the global financial market, and this is for early 2026. We are recording this on March 12th of 2026. So inflation is around 2.5%, which is slightly above what the Fed wants it to be. Unemployment is at about 4.5%, and that is a measure of how strong the market and the economy are. Interest rates are higher than we would like them to be, but they are stabilizing. Right now, on a really big level, the macro risks, obviously, the geopolitical conflict affecting oil supply, energy is everything. It affects costs across the board, which is going to add to that inflation persistence. We also have really, really unusually high public debt levels. Credit card debt is at an all-time high right now, and we're seeing a lot of AI-driven tech investment right now. So there's a little bit of a bubble in the stock market. I'll talk about that a little bit more in further slides. So the overall environment, moderate growth and elevated uncertainty, especially with the state of the world right now. So I'm going to talk about a few things that people typically think of as investments. So the residential housing market right now, a lot of people think, well, real estate is a good investment, right? Well, not necessarily, because real estate, you're still paying property taxes, you're paying insurance, you're paying your mortgage. And so it takes away from your bottom line every month. And unless you're taking money equity out of that house, it's just money that is sitting there. And right now, it's not a great investment from the viewpoint of we're looking at what they call stagflation. Prices aren't going anywhere. It looks like they're going sideways. This does depend on what market you are living in. So I know Florida is much more of a buyer's market than a seller's market right now. The coastlines are seeing that a lot. The mid part of the country is a little bit more even for buyers and sellers. But overall, affordability has been questionable. The rate of how much how much a house costs and how much money people are making there's a big difference between that right now. So it's very hard for people to afford houses, and mortgage rates are still historically elevated over what we've been used to in recent years. And there are supply shortages from underbuilding and people not being able to sell their house for the prices that they want to. So it's stable, but it's a strained market. So it's not a great place for investment and affordability right now. Moving into commercial real estate, you're going to see a lot of differences in this in 2026 because in 2020, everybody started working from home and those leases for those office buildings are up this year. And so there's a huge issue with lots of stock for offices. The office vacancy rate is around 18 to 25% nationally, which are near record highs. And some tech-heavy cities have vacancies above 25%. So some of the cities that were very high in tech-related industry have even more office space. But we are seeing that industrial warehouses and things that need logistics are rebounding due to the supply chain and e-commerce demand. So the implication overall in commercial real estate is it's a two-speed market. It's strong in industrial and data centers, but it's very weak in offices. So there may be an opportunity for people who do need office space to get a really good deal on that space. Now, I mentioned debt and fiscal environment. Debt is at an all-time high, not only personally, but worldwide. Countries around the world are in the highest debt they've ever been currently. The United States is around $3.5 trillion in debt, and that is going up $1 trillion every 90 days. And that statistic is from before the issues with Iran started. So that could go up even faster. So it grew 2.25 trillion in 1 year. And just to give you perspective of what that means, it takes 31,720 years to count to 1 trillion. So that's a huge number. And the interest on that debt is rapidly approaching $1 trillion annually. We're paying as much in interest as we are paying for our budget. It's not sustainable. It is going to fall apart. There is literally no way that it can't. Because the debt to GDP is way above historical norms. We have rising interest payments that are crowding out spending, and governments are increasingly relying on borrowing, but it's beginning to get to a point where there's nowhere that they can borrow from. Very high debt historically favors inflation hedges and hard assets like precious metals, which is why silver, right? Why now? Looking at the stock market, I'm not going to read all of this. If you're watching the recording, you can pause it on this. But the idea is right now, it feels as if the market is pretty stable. They're expecting 10 to 12% returns on this year. But you have to keep in mind that that is based on stableness in the world, and the chaos is increasing. The things that are driving the stock market right now is all AI infrastructure spending, and they're saying strong corporate earnings, but it looks like some of those earnings are being inflated and they're not as good as they think it is. Energy prices are spiking, which causes prices to rise in every sector of the financial markets. There's a lot of geopolitical tension. There's stretched valuations, like they're saying it's worth more than it really is. And we have what's called an AI bubble. So back in 2000, we had the dot-com bubble. In 2008, it was a housing bubble. It will crash eventually. Moving on to the next one. So those are the stock market concerns. I really liked that picture. So US equities are doing pretty good because of that AI investment and tech spending, but markets are so volatile due to the geopolitics, the energy prices, and trade tensions, something that I hadn't mentioned, all the tariffs and all the this war is not just about kinetic war, it's about a financial war and putting pressure on countries around the world with finances. You'll see that a little bit later in the presentation. So the market concentration, like I said, it's a big handful of tech stocks, but not a lot else. Earning pressure from rising costs, high valuations. So equities remain strong, but increasingly dependent on a few sectors and macro stability. And those few sectors, you're going to see a little bit later, there's been a shift in that today that could be very concerning. That is why precious metals are in everybody's mind. It is why silver and gold are at an all-time high, because they are considered stable. And silver especially has a strong industrial demand. And Ian's going to talk about that shortly as soon as I bring him in here. Something to keep in mind. This is a graph from the 1929 stock market crash and what it looks like today. This is a little bit older. I couldn't find a to-date one when I was looking for this today, but the point of this slide is we have all of the indicators across the board that we're going to have a 1929 type crash in the stock market, which is why it's so important to protect yourself right now. And this showed up today in my Facebook feed. I would really recommend that you go follow Robert Kiyosaki because he is paying very, very close attention. He is the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, excuse me. And he said back in 2013, he warned of the biggest stock market crash in history, and he believes it's still coming. He thinks it's arriving now. Why did he make that prediction? Because in 2008 crash, the great financial crisis was never fixed. The subsequent crash could only get bigger. In 2008, he was on Wolf Blitzer's CNN program predicting the crash of Lehman Brothers, which crashed a few days later. In 2026, the crash will be led by BlackRock's private credit Ponzi scheme. BlackRock is the company that owns everything. He hopes he's wrong, yet if and when BlackRock crashes, it's going to be fast and destructive. Baby boomers' retirements will be wiped out all over the world because the world is loaded with debt it cannot pay back. I continue to suggest investors to become proactive and acquire gold, silver, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. We will talk about crypto a little bit later in this presentation, and partnerships in real oil wells. As the price rockets go boom, I get richer because silver disappears and the price of oil goes up. I love silver because even in 2026, if you have $10, you can go to a gold and silver dealer and buy $10 worth of junk real silver and receive a great financial education from the dealer who wants for you as a long-term customer. For just $10, anyone can invest in silver, et cetera, et cetera. You can go look this up on his Facebook account. So now it's time to bring Ian in. I am going to stop this share so that I can bring Ian in. There we go. And Ian, I am going to pin you so that everybody can see you. Welcome to my friend and colleague. Ian Ferrar has 24 years of investing in precious metals, and that is why he's with us tonight. So we are doing this in partnership. Ian, welcome.
Jodi, awesome presentation. Super proud of you. That's a lot of serious factual content.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So tell everybody a little bit about you, how you got into
Wow.
silver and why this is why you're so excited. And guys, you're going to
Well,
see Ian gets very excited.
yeah, I get very excited. It's actually kind of late for me. I'm in Orlando, Florida. Originally, I'm from the New York State New York tri-state area. I lived in New York City. I'm actually a New York native New Yorker, but now I live in Florida. Much nicer weather down here. As you can hear, I have a little New York accent. But wow, where do I get started? I've made most of my career around the health and wellness space. Been an athlete, pretty much my whole life. A competitive cyclist. I am a gold medalist and two-time silver medalist in the sport. Not too long ago. Um, and I dove deep into financial literacy in the early 2000s. I came across Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And even before he was talking about silver, I was buying silver. And when he got heavy-handed in silver, I backed up the truck. We're talking almost 25 years ago. And I really started to study, why silver is at the price it's at. We're going to get into that and why it is skyrocketing and it's going to continue to skyrocket. We'll get into that. But I was really fascinated by the education aspect, monetary history. If you know monetary history, you could connect the dots of what's coming. And you could go all the way back to the Greek times, and it keeps on repeating over and over and over again. So this financial crash that's supposedly coming, I did read Rich Dad's book, Rich Dad's Prophecy, and it is coming true. And a lot of people's retirements
Yeah.
are in serious jeopardy. And we're going to go into how you could protect that. So for me, given the fact that I've been a student of financial history, people are like, wait a second, Ian, how did you know? How did you know that the price was going to get, to this point? Because I actually shared with Russ and Jodi about silver many years ago, and they've done quite well. And everyone on here tonight doesn't have to wait 25 years. Okay, yes, we have the real stuff here. I always have the real stuff. And the whole thing is that there's a lot of things all converging at the same time. You have geopolitical tensions, you have a new war, you have monetary debasement, you have serious industrial supply and demand issues that all stress out this amazing metal, which we're going to get into. So, this is an area of my life that I have the opportunity to raise people's awareness of how they could protect their money. Okay, because what you have in Wells Fargo, PNC, Bank of America, wherever you bank is not money. It's
Can you
actually,
explain fiat
yeah.
currency?
Excuse me?
Can you explain fiat currency and what
Yeah,
that means?
fiat currency is a paper note that a country pretty much creates out of thin air, and it's based on the full faith and credit of the country that it will be a monetary instrument for use in the marketplace. Okay. When you look up the definition of money, it's to be a medium of exchange, but it should hold its value. Now, after 1971, the dollar became a fiat dollar. It's not backed by anything. The US dollar was backed by oil, but the contract with Saudi Arabia ended not too long ago. So technically, the dollar is backed by the US military right now, and we see a lot of that flexing now. We're going to get into all of those geopolitical attachments, but
But the
your
bottom line is
yeah,
that fiat currency, those dollars that you're holding in your bank, are losing value
every day.
every single day.
Yeah.
And, that's how in the Weimar Republic in Venezuela, they ended up with wheelbarrows full
Yes.
of paper dollars to buy a loaf of bread.
Yeah, that's really true.
So you want to beat inflation.
Yes, you do. And the thing is, God's money will never inflate away. Okay, a gold coin today will well, it'll buy a really nice suit. Okay,
Yeah.
but gold, over the years, like back in the 70s, 80s, when gold was like, between $400 and $800 an ounce, would buy you a nice suit. Whereas paper money, okay, if you go out shopping, everything has gone up in price because it's the inverse of the dollar. The reason why gold and silver are skyrocketing, it's the inverse of the dollar. Your retirement is losing value every day. Your paper in the bank is losing every day. The stock market, it doesn't make a difference if the Dow goes to 50, 60, 70, 80,000. It is losing value because of what it swims in. And this is the education here. Okay. This stuff right here is the real money. Okay. Governments do not want a disciplinary attachment to this because they can't expand the use of their currency. Okay. They can't expand credit. All the skyscrapers, the buildings throughout the world, more often than not, banks, they lend that money into existence. It's called fractional reserve banking. So they kind of create like your mortgage. If you having a mortgage, guess what? They created the money out of thin air and they charge you interest. It's called usury. In the Middle East, they don't do that there. If you have the cash, you have the gold, you buy the piece of property. Whereas here, that's how banks win. It's always on the bank's balance sheet as the asset. Okay, it's an asset for you when you sell it. So I'm going
And
into another part of
yeah,
the
it's a different part,
presentation
but
here.
it's so
Yeah.
important for people
Yeah.
to understand
Right.
because it
Right.
has no value. It has no inherent
Right.
value. It is
No.
losing its perceived value literally every day. That's why we're seeing inflation going up.
Yeah.
And it's just honestly a great big huge Ponzi scheme.
It is. It is. And they want you to think that it's money. It does not store its value over a long period of time. Whereas for the past 25 years, my precious metal position has returned massive. And first and foremost, it's protected the purchasing power that I need. Okay. And it's the ultimate form of collateral. It's never going to default. Okay. I mean, right now you have Japan, you have China, they're dumping our debt and we're actually monetizing our own debt. So the Federal Reserve is actually buying its own debt, and that's a problem. So we're in the death
And
throes right
when
now.
you get paid, you're
Right.
actually getting paid in someone else's debt. The
Exactly.
entire system is based on debt. So let's move on. I'm going to bring
Yeah, yeah.
presentation back up here. There it is. So, first question, why silver? Why now? And what makes this moment different historically than what we've seen before?
Okay, well, first of all, silver is not just a monetary metal. It's one of two noble metals. But silver is used in a tremendous amount of industrial applications. Okay, the computer I'm speaking on has silver. Your Apple, your iPhone, your Samsung phone uses silver. Solar panels use silver. Electric vehicles use silver. The military industrial complex uses silver. There's about 850 million ounces of silver that's mined every year. Okay,
But the
and
supply and demand, talk about that.
the demand is outstripping what they're pulling out of the ground. So all of these, like for example, the whole Greenland thing that you've probably heard about, there's lots of silver there. So there's a resource war going on worldwide. As of January 1st, China is not exporting any more silver because they're the leader of the fabrication of silver. Silver is an incredible geopolitical strategic metal. Okay, so why silver? Why now? Silver is the most suppressed asset on planet Earth. And we're going to get into why it's suppressed and how it's suppressed and why that's coming to an end and how all of you can benefit from that.
All right, so we're going to move on here. How is this moment different than the silver spike of 1980? So you can see right there in the middle of the graph that that was the 1980 silver spike when it went up to not quite $50 an ounce. We are above that now. Talk
Right.
about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's just put it this way. The Hunt brothers in 1980 saw a tremendous opportunity in the silver market because they knew that it was rigged. So they started buying up a lot of silver and they forced the COMEX, which is the commodities, future exchange of selling paper silver. They knew that the emperor didn't have the clothes, if you know what I mean. They didn't have enough physical ounces to back up what they were buying. So they created a tremendous spike in the price of silver. So in 1980, silver went from, a few years prior to that, from $1, $2, $3 up to almost $50 in 1980. So 1980 was the mythological $50 an ounce. Okay. And it hasn't done that until recently. In November, December of 2025, silver went to $50 and it didn't stop. And we'll get into that in a few moments.
So we will, because talk about this, the gold silver ratio. I've got
Mhm.
the graph there for you, but
Great graph.
why is this important? And especially now.
Yeah, well, in 1980, the gold to silver ratio, what we mean by that is that if like right now, the gold to silver ratio is about 58 to 1. It means 58 ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. Okay. Coming out of the ground, it's like 10 to 1. And they've been manipulating this for a long period of time. Okay. I believe that in the not too distant future, the gold to silver ratio is going to be single digits to 1. Right now, gold is about $5,100 an ounce, and silver right now, the last time I looked, is about $84, $85 an ounce. I believe that the gold to silver ratio is going to continue to narrow. So, folks, the opportunity in silver right now is tremendous. Okay. One has to understand that by holding silver, this is a material that the whole world needs, 21st century world needs, and it's one of two of the noble metals, and it's pretty cheap, under $100 right now.
Well, and just to expand on that, because that ratio is in the 1 to 50 range right now,
Mhm.
we know that that ratio is going to get less, and
Yes,
we know that gold is likely to go up during this time. So not
right.
only is that ratio going to get less, but the gold is going to go up, which means it's going to bring the silver with it. And so silver is going to have a much bigger spike in value than
Huge.
gold will because of that ratio decreasing. Did I get that right?
Yeah. Yeah, you did. And silver is gold on steroids. Okay, let's just put it this way. If people know what a 747 jetliner, I think 747s came out in the 60s into the 70s, the jumbo jet. When that takes off, it just lumbers to altitude. Whereas a fighter jet of today, whether it be an F-22 or one of those modern, generational Ford jets, they go right to altitude really quickly. That is silver. But everyone watching this right now is not going to have to wait 25 years because the momentum with silver right now is tremendous. And we're going to be getting into what's happening right now and how people can participate.
Exactly, exactly. So go a little bit further into
Yeah.
the use of silver right
Mhm.
now in the 21st century. You guys can read the screen. Ian's just going to talk, but these are some of the important points. So go, Ian.
Yeah, I mean, silver right now, I mean, given the fact that silver is the best conductor of light and heat, it's used in electronics, it's used in solar panels. I mean, there are solar farms in India that are like as big as a state because of the ability of silver to do what it needs to do, for the green energy. Whether you
And
believe in the whole need for green energy or not, but
it
it's
is the only metal that can be
only.
used, right? Is there anything that even comes close?
copper, but silver is you can't replace silver because of its nature of being a conductor, and it's the best of the best.
Because it
And
doesn't
if
overheat like aluminum.
no, it doesn't. It doesn't. So it's really great in electronics that produce a lot of heat. And I mean, they're not mining enough of this to keep up with 21st century society. Let's put it that way.
And
There
that's
are
been
companies.
happening for a
Yeah.
while, right?
It has. They're like Samsung it just developed a new solid state battery, okay, for an electric vehicle that goes 1,000 kilometers. Okay, it takes 10 minutes to charge. There's a kilogram of silver, which kilogram is pretty substantial. I think kilo is, hey, BB, how much is a kilo? 3 pounds? 2 pounds, 2 pounds
His
to a
wife is
kilo.
from South America.
Yeah,
She
she's from South
she's used
America.
to it.
Yeah, they think in kilos and not pounds, but that's a lot of silver per car per battery. Okay, so if you think about it, when you're rolling out a new technology like that, a company has to go in there and corner the market. Okay, Mexico produces a quarter of the world's silver. Okay, so where did Samsung go? They went to Samsung and, oh, excuse me, they went to Mexico and it's like, you know what? We need to buy this much future of silver. Okay, not a future paper contract. We'll talk about that, but they actually bought the physical. Tesla, Elon Musk, they actually own a silver mine as well because these companies can't survive without silver. Okay, this is such an incredible metal. Of course, it's really, really beautiful to look at. It's beautiful to hold, and it also has incredible return on investment as well.
Exactly. And as an aside right now, you just reminded me that
Yeah.
if you are looking at stocks and what to invest in, silver mining is a place to go with that. All right,
Just
I'm moving on to the next thing. When buying physical silver, what should we get and what should we avoid?
Yeah, well, there was just a really great comment. You want to avoid ETF silver. That means exchange traded fund silver, paper silver. There's a lot of counterparty risk. What I mean by counterparty risk, if you don't
Well,
hold it, you don't own it, you know?
we've got that. That's coming up. So if you guys
Good.
could please hold your questions until the end.
Okay.
I'm seeing them pop up, and we are getting to all of
Oh,
those. So
oh,
we
okay.
will
I see.
have
I
a
see what's
question
happening.
and answer at the end.
Okay.
But if when we're looking at buying the physical silver, what should we get? I mean, we all know this one's a good one. This is a American Silver Eagle. Why is this one particularly so special? Why does
Well,
it have the premium on it?
this is the Walking Liberty. This is a U.S. minted coin. It's the equivalent of like $100 right now, given where the silver price is. It's always gonna wield a higher premium over the spot Globex price because of the artistry. I mean, it's a beautiful coin, and the U.S. Mint has stopped making this, so these are gonna become really, really scarce. They come, one could buy them in monster boxes of 500. A tube comes of, I think, of 20 coins to a tube. So the Walking Liberty Silver Eagle is really, really great. I actually have a pretty wide variety of silver. I mean, I have, thousands of ounces of silver that I've accumulated over the years. And, I have the 90% silver, which is, the quarters, which we know quarters have 90% silver. Each quarter right now is around $15 a quarter.
What
Canada.
year?
Hmm?
From what
Yeah.
year?
1964 and earlier.
Yeah, that's really key because
Yeah.
they stopped using that much silver in our
Yeah.
coinage after 1964.
Right.
Has to be uh, before that. And before we go on to the 90%, I just want to bring up we know the Silver Eagles are a good idea.
Mm.
Canadian Maples, UK, the Britannica, the Austrian, what is it? The Austrian,
Philharmonic.
thank you, Philharmonic. Those are
Mhm.
the most popular, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. And I recommend that people go with the generic bullion rounds right now because 90% is really hard to find. Okay. When silver hit $50, a lot of 90% was sold and then melted down to the refiner. So 90% is very scarce. I got mine many years ago and over the years until it was, until you couldn't get it anymore. So I recommend the Silver Eagle and generic rounds. Generic like,
Like out of the
Buffalo.
Caribbean, places
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then somebody just asked about bars. Good idea, bad idea.
I don't recommend them. I used to have a lot of them back in the day. It's hard to shave off a bar. Okay, whereas if you have a bullion coin, it's a little different. I mean, I have like two 10-ounce bars now, whereas back in the day, I mean, I had thousands of ounces of like, mixture of 100-ounce bars, like the really beautiful poured bars. And they're really difficult to, transport. Coins in a tube are much easier to transport and they have a higher premium on them.
And they can be used as actual money. You
Yes.
need to.
Yes. Yes.
All right, moving on. What is the difference between paper silver and actual physical silver?
Okay, great. This is what I was getting into. Okay. An exchange traded fund, like if you have an ETF of SLV, for example, or an ETF of gold, which is GLD, that is
And what's
pretty
an
much.
ETF? Can you explain what an
Yeah,
ETF
sure. It's an
is?
exchange traded fund. This means that you could buy a certain amount of shares of that product, and it's supposed to have the backing of the physical silver. Now, behind all of that is a lot of physical that doesn't exist, and we're going to get into that. So that's a very risky form of silver. Now, you could go on your computer. You can open up an account with, Fidelity, and you could buy, shares of SLV, which is PSLV is JP Morgan's silver ETF. And you could technically own silver, but unless you're holding it, you really don't own it. And right now, the banks are scrambling
Mhm.
to get their hands on the physical because there's a major, major issue with scarcity in the physical market. Okay, so physical is king. That's why you don't want to hold anything paper right now. And I'm talking even equities too. Okay. I don't own any equities. I don't own any mining stocks. I hold what they're pulling out of the ground. Okay. Because, like I said in the beginning of this, fiat dollars, the entire stock market, one's entire investment portfolio is based in debt. Okay.
So
It's an illusion of wealth.
your metaphor here for paper silver versus physical silver is a little bit like musical chairs, right? Because
Yeah, it is.
you gave me, we were talking yesterday,
Yeah.
and there was a ratio of how much silver there actually is per paper silver.
I have
What
it.
was
There's
that?
there's 356 ounces of paper to every 1 ounce. The emperor doesn't have any clothes.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
playing musical chairs.
Yeah. Right now, the COMEX has something like 20 million ounces left, and there's hundreds of millions of paper ounces sold short. So they sell a paper contract that has a 5,000 ounce, supposed to have 5,000 ounces of silver behind it, and it doesn't. So right now the banks are scrambling. This is why the price is going to continue to scream higher because when the COMEX doesn't have any more physical silver, a force de majeure is going to happen. That means failure to deliver. And when they fail to deliver, the holders of the physical asset are going to become rich overnight.
There you go. So, looking at real time, how
Yeah.
does the Middle East situation affect
Oh, this is
silver?
this is this is a major, major thing. Okay. The military industrial complex cannot survive and function without silver. Every Tomahawk cruise missile, there's probably close to 700 Tomahawk cruise missiles that have flown into the theater of war and exploded along with the silver that was in it. Okay. About 500 ounces are in a Tomahawk cruise missile and other ordnance. So that means that after this conflict ends, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, they're all going to meet with the US government, and those companies are going to say, okay, this is what's required of you in terms of getting silver, cobalt, all the elements, the rare earths that manufacture these weapons of war. And silver is at the top of the list as a critical mineral for it. And I'm going to bring something else into the conversation here, which is really, really important. A few months ago, the current administration had a meeting of about the elements, the critical elements, the rare earths that are needed for military industrial
National
complex
security.
manufacturing, national security. And silver was at the top of the list, and they're going to create a floor price for this because they want the silver miners to be profitable in order to pull as much silver out of the ground as they can, because silver is critical for the F-22, for the F-35, for every cruise missile, every piece of ordnance that uses light and heat, which is a lot. Anything that has electronics needs this metal. So the military industrial complex is the number one consumer of silver. Then you have the solar market, then you have the EV market, then you have Apple and all those other companies that use silver. So this is a major, major biggie. And there's not enough of this coming out of the ground to go around. And it takes 5 to 10 years to bring a new silver mine online. So what does that tell you? The people that hold the physical metal, the people that understand what's going on with COMEX, the whole paper shell game, are going to become incredibly well off by owning physical silver.
So here's a question for you. Back in the World War II era, well, in the Great Depression era,
Yeah.
the government came in and took people's gold. Is that something that they could do with silver this time around?
Um, I don't see government confiscation, but the ability for one to buy it from a dealer like I have, that probably will be no longer. The reason why Lyndon Johnson took the silver out of the coinage, okay, in 1964 and earlier, it was 90% silver, right? The reason why he took it out is because silver is a strategic metal, and Vietnam was warming up, okay? At the end of World War II, the United States had 3 billion ounces of silver in the stockpile. So there was a lot of silver to go around for everything. That's why
That's
Lyndon Johnson made that
fascinating.
move. Yeah,
I had no idea. That is
yeah,
fascinating.
yeah.
All right, so I'm going to bring this up because this happened today. This Robert posted this about 4 hours ago. I just happened to see it. I threw into the presentation because Israel started attacking Iranian banks. And Iran said, "Oh, well, you're opening up the theater of war. Well, we're going to not only go after the banks, we're going to go after your enemy technology infrastructure." So 30 targets that were named, located, described: Google's Dubai offices, the Qatar Cloud Center, Amazon's offices in Tel Aviv and Haifa, Microsoft, Nvidia, Oracle, IBM, Palantir, offices across Israel and the Gulf states. They're saying we're not, it's not off the table anymore. And every dollar of damage that happens to those companies cannot be insured. Insurance does not cover war. And so they won't get anything back. And so if you look at the bold on the right side, think about what's actually at stake. Microsoft committed 15 billion to UAE infrastructure by 2029. Oracle, Nvidia, and Cisco are all part of OpenAI's Stargate AI campus in the UAE, a 10 square mile, 5 gigawatt facility. Saudi Arabia's Humane is pouring billions more into regional AI buildouts. So this is where the next decade of AI gets built, and Iran just declared it a war zone. Comment on that.
Yeah, Jody, thank you for bringing this into people's consciousness here. This is really serious. Okay, we have a resource war, we have a kinetic war, we have a financial war. Okay, because there's lots of things going on. Okay, the whole thing with Venezuela, that was of course a big, big, big oil. Well, China was the big consumer of that oil, no longer, and the other biggie is Iran, no longer for China. So there's a currency war going on. There's a kinetic war going on. There's a financial war going on, and now you have this. Okay, now the banks are in serious, serious jeopardy right now as a liquidity crisis going on. BlackRock just announced that people of high net worth can't actually withdraw their funds. I mean, that is scary.
Talk
So
about bank bail-ins.
big, big, major bail-ins. Okay, you're an unsecured creditor with your bank. So if you don't hold bank, that is a serious problem. Okay, I log into my Wells Fargo, I see what I got, but technically it's just digits on the screen. And if everyone were to pull their money out, they wouldn't have enough to go around. Okay, the FDIC only insures up to $250,000, but they don't even have enough to cover every person with a bank account. So if you don't hold physical assets, you're exposing yourself to tremendous financial pain. And this is not fear. This is happening right now. And the liquidity crisis that we are starting to experience can be solved in a number of ways. Okay. There will be a revaluation with the precious metal prices, and there will be specific fintech cryptocurrencies that will support the new liquidity in the world for finance.
So then that brings us, yeah,
Ah,
it was beautiful. Look at that.
oh, look
So
at
what
that.
about cryptocurrency as an asset
Yeah,
class and an
yeah,
investment? Talk about the ups and downs of that
yeah.
now, because it is an asset class at this
It
point in
is.
time.
It is. And there's a bill that's going to be hopefully working itself through called the Clarity Act, which is really going to enhance the overall institutional adoption of fintech utility driven cryptocurrencies. Now listen, I'm not against Bitcoin, but if you've ever tried to use it and you want to bite your nails because it takes 35 minutes per transaction, it's very costly. And there are other companies out there that have created tokens with incredible utility. So it is an investment asset class, but I would look at the utility, the use. We just talked about all the utility and the functions that Silver offers. So I'm a big proponent of XRP because it is a cross-border payment
The
crypto.
technology itself
Right. It's
has
technology
a
itself.
what we
Right.
call in that world, we call it use case,
Yeah.
but
Utility.
it's a very volatile market. If the data centers are being exploded, that's going to be a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
it is. It
but it
is.
is the new rails of the banking system that is coming in. So Web 1 was dial up, Web 2 is what we have right now, Web 3 is blockchain technology. And that is for sure where we're going. And cryptocurrency is built on the blockchain. Did I get all
It
that?
is. Yeah, it is. And thing is, this financial system has been in play for, quite some time now. And there are companies like Ripple that are really leading the world to help the stock market become tokenized, to help the stock market run 24/7 with lightning speed payments. I mean, even today, I mean, ACH payment takes, 1 to 3 days to get to you, whereas some of these financial instruments is 3.5 second transaction time, pennies per transaction at lightning speeds. So this is going to be a part of our world. It already is. So a positioning in that's important. But guess what? All this technology needs. It goes back to this beautiful stuff right here. So we really want to really get across to everybody the importance of holding God's money, because cryptocurrency, the lights go out, the internet goes down, it's not going to do anything for you. Okay. You're not going to be able to open up your wallet. You're not going to be able to get online because there's a blackout. Whereas if you have physical silver, okay, you're always going to be able to, do business.
Right. And so you do want to diversify. You do want to look at all these. The cryptocurrency space is something you need to understand. You need
Right.
to deeply delve into it before investing. People have lost their shirts in this
Yeah.
market. They've also become millionaires in this market, but you need to understand it.
Yes.
So moving in, or moving on rather, what is the benefit of rolling over retirement for portfolios into precious metals?
This is I can't tell you how important this is. Recently, I've signed a contract with a company called Noble Gold Investments. For years, people have asked me, Ian, do you have a company where I could roll over my retirement? Because I see the value in metal, I see what's going on with the dollar, I get it. How do I protect this? And very recently, a company approached me because of all of my, I've done a lot of things online about the merits of silver, the merits of gold. And this is a company that actually helps you roll over your hard work. If you worked for a company for a long time and you have a Roth IRA, an IRA, a 401k, a 403b, any of those financial instruments, because in 1986 the ERISA Act changed everything. It was defined contribution. So you're gonna contribute okay, your for your retirement that's indexed to a casino of a stock market that goes up and down. I don't think that was too smart. It was good for financial companies, but not too smart for the investor that's not savvy enough to understand. So when you decide that you want to be protected by precious metals, you go from the casino and potential disaster into something that's safe. So not only you're going to protect your retirement, you're also going to be able to appreciate at the same time. Now, last year, silver had a return of 160%. Okay, gold was about 84 plus percent. With what's coming, there's going to be a whole new reality with silver based on what we shared. Okay. Silver hit $118 about a month and a half ago, and it corrected, it consolidated. And the next levels that are going to come up are going to be tremendous. So if one has, you know, a minimum of 25,000, they could roll over with Noble Gold investments. If people have a lot more than that, you're not going to be spending it. You're going to be getting it out of the casino. You're going to be getting it out of that pool of paper nothing, 38.5 trillion debt. Okay, that's what that is. Your hard work is sitting in a bunch of debt pool. You're going to roll it over to this beautiful stuff over here. Okay, when you roll it over to a precious metal allocated, so this is going to be physical metals
Mhm.
that are going to be sitting in your 401, your IRA, your Roth IRA. You're going to be able to monitor it 24/7, and you could actually get on a plane. If you want to go to Delaware and see Delaware, it's a little cold there right now. But Texas, there's two depositories, one in Texas and one in Delaware, where Noble Gold Investments has their facilities. And you could check on your retirement. And I will tell you this, gold is going to go north of $6,000 an ounce this year and higher based on a lot of things that are happening in the world right now. Silver is going to chase gold. So the gold to silver ratio is going to get, smaller and smaller. And I foresee gold to silver ratio, single digits to one. And you're not going to lose your retirement. Okay. Like Rich Dad said, okay. Rich Dad's prophecy, the greatest crash in purchasing power, even if the Dow and the S&P go much higher, it does not matter if the stock market had an incredible 1,000-point increase today. It's the purchasing power of the currency it sits in, which is the key. Okay, so we're going into a major currency crisis. So if you have a retirement, you have to think about the lifeboat. And the lifeboat is this beautiful stuff over here that's never failed human civilization. Okay. The manipulation and the use of currencies have failed people. And if you go to a currency museum, like in London, for example, you'll see on the wall all the currencies that are on the wall because they're no longer used in commerce anymore.
Right, exactly. So
Sorry about
we
that. My
need
little
to add, no, you're good. If we need to add anything else here, and then we are going to open this up for questions after this, but what is your final takeaway from this call? What should people walk away from this call, having it top of mind, considering timing, considering best ways to move forward, considering allocation, all of those things? What do they need to walk away from this call really taking away?
I really want people to understand that we're at a crossroads right now in our country on many levels. And when it comes to, the monetary instrument of the US dollar, one needs to think protection, one needs to think a store of value. Okay? Those are the two most important things that I could stress here. If you worked many years to put money away for retirement and you don't want to lose it, you need to take action and get into physically allocated backing of your retirement. Or if you have cash in the bank, and don't take this the wrong way, you're a loser. You're a loser in purchasing power every day. Okay. So you have to think about converting a paper instrument, a paper debt IOU into the real thing. So you're going to sleep really good at night when you have lots of this, in a safe place.
And that's why this is actually so key because
Yeah,
you take the money out of the bank, so it's no longer in paper. Now it's in something solid. It's in real money, not in currency.
right.
And you need it. This particular, the Silver Eagle, is what the silver stores are currently giving people money back for. Some of it is harder to turn in than other things. And this, if you need that money, you can turn around and get it
Yeah,
right
it's
back.
liquid 24/7. And the thing is, your dealer becomes your bank. Now, Jody just mentioned something like the 90%, for example, a lot of the refineries are not, they're backed up right now. So they're actually not going to give you the best value out of your 90. That's why it's good to have, more of the Silver Eagles, the 999 bullion rounds. And folks, listen, this is a no-brainer, okay? They're not pulling enough out of the ground to keep up with supply. Okay. There's the situation with the COMEX that they can't sell any more paper silver that doesn't exist as of Basel 3. Basel 3, which I didn't speak to, is an agreement worldwide that all the banks can't sell what's not on their balance sheet. So if you don't hold it physically, you can't sell something that doesn't represent the real, true physical nature of the product. So everything is in God's money's favor right now. Okay. It's mentioned in the Bible a whole lot. And all these retirement plans are going to lose big. And this is not just me saying this because I'm promoting, gold and silver, predominantly silver. This is happening. I know people that are rolling over hundreds of thousands into physical metal because the dollar is getting weaker and weaker. If you think the dollar is going to get stronger and they're going to fix this, stay in your retirement plan. Okay, keep all your cash in the bank.
Because we didn't even talk about bricks.
We didn't even talk about BRICS. There's
Yeah.
a major play against the dollar right now, and it's somewhat weakened right now because Iran was a part of the BRICS. But there's lots of geopolitical tentacles that are happening right now. There's a resource war that feeds into the currency war, and gold's going to be revalued. Okay,
Exactly. Because
it's going
that's
to
how
be
they're going to
revalued.
start balancing the books is with that
Yes.
revaluation.
Yeah, and this is not some like conspiracy. It will be revalued when all the central banks of the world have enough gold. They're all going to call each other. How much tonnage you got? Because we're going to flip the switch. And that revaluate, it's already starting. Okay. I got into gold at $273 an ounce in 2002. Gold hit $5,600 an ounce. Okay. About a month and a half ago. Okay. Was that a good move? I think that was a good move.
It's a
Silver,
good
less
move.
than
Yeah.
$5. Silver less than $5, okay? And I've seen a high of $118 and we're just getting started. So for people that see the vision and want to protect their assets, okay? Because debt is not really an asset. It can be between banks, it can be in real estate, taking on debt to buy income producing properties. I get that dialogue, but to protect the purchasing power, you need to get in sooner than later, okay? Because with what's coming, we're in a little rest period now. So, if your biggest takeaway, I want protection of my hard work, and I'll show you how to do it.
All right. So I'm going to open up for questions. I am going to stop this. Well, you know what? Let's leave it. And we'll have you put it in the chat because I am technology. Uh, my technology isn't as good as I wanted it to be, and I don't know how to turn it on so you guys can come onto camera. So I'm going to leave this picture up for the recording so that people know that this is the question and answer session. And go ahead and throw in the chat any questions you have for myself or for Ian, and we'll get those answered for you. I know somebody here. I'm going to bring up the chat on the screen here. Can you differentiate? We did that. Remaining silver shorts. Let's see.
I don't think there's going to be any more. I don't think there's going to be any more futures contracts left in the next 3 months.
If you have 5 or 10 ounce silver bars, would you keep them or trade them for coins?
I'll keep them. You're going to lose on trading it for coins.
Okay, there you go. Anybody else? Any questions that we can answer for you in real time? I'll give you a second. If you had $100,000 in an IRA, what percentage? Oh, somebody asked what's an IRA? It's an individual retirement account.
Yeah.
What percentage would you suggest rolling over into hard silver?
I would roll over 100% into silver because you're going to get more for your dollar value, okay? $100,000 rolled into silver is going to get you probably around hmm, like between hmm, close to 2,000 plus ounces of silver. Okay, very, very smart move. Given the gold to silver ratio, you're going to see tremendous returns based on the chase of the gold price and the gold to silver ratio. I've had people roll over and just get silver coins. And the people at Noble Gold Investments, the representatives there are fantastic. Once you set up an account with them, then you actually get to allocate. They show you the portfolio of metal, beautiful metal that you get to purchase. So you're gonna take that 100,000 that's swimming in paper and convert it over to the shiny stuff.
And just to give people sort of some bigger ideas, the silver is going to have a higher up value right now because of that silver gold ratio. But you can
Yeah.
also look at mining stocks, you could look at energy stocks, you could look at things like that if you did want to diversify. It's never a bad idea to diversify.
Yeah.
And this is such a unique time in the world right now
It
that
is.
kind of some of the old paradigms don't fit as much as they once did because previous to the military industrial complex, silver wasn't needed, like actually needed to run the economy. And now silver is a huge aspect of the economy, which makes its value go way up because the supply is not as big as the demand.
Right, right. We just had a question about what would you look for in a silver miner. I mean, I actually own one share of a company called Aya Gold and Silver. It's a company, it's a Canadian mining company that mines silver in North Africa. And I bought it at $9 and it's like $27. Listen, there's a lot of counterparty risk by owning. If something happens within the country, like there's like a president there's a coup d'etat and the president gets taken out, and there's a lot of things that could happen within the country that affect the ability to mine the silver. That's why I don't own a lot of mining stocks. I think silver mining stocks are going to do incredibly well. But guess what, folks? When you hold this stuff, you can't lose. Okay, there's no counterparty risk. Now, if you lose this, that's your only risk of losing it. But hopefully, you put it in a safe place, if you understand
Talk
what I'm saying.
about that. Talk about storage. Because today I was talking to a friend and they thought that they had hidden their silver well and they were burglarized and all of it was taken. So talk about
Yeah,
storing.
storage is like, I really believe in a strong vaulted situation. I've had my own vaulted situation for a long time. Noble Gold Investments, if one wants to roll over and have theirs vaulted or buy it and have it vaulted, they provide those services. If one does a physical direct buy, I recommend that you buy a really great quality safe. Don't tell anyone about it. Make sure it's bolted to the floor, and you'll be secure, in my opinion.
Somebody said, what about jewelry? It's hard to turn in, is it not?
What do you mean to sell jewelry?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Well, most jewelry, it's like if when you buy jewelry, it of course there's the artistic price point, the what they retail it for, but if you actually took it to a precious metal dealer, they're just going to look at the melt value. So if a necklace is like 30,000, you're not going to get 30,000 for it. um I mean, I've taken, watches and various things into my local dealer, and they give you an assessment, and unfortunately it's worth a lot less.
right.
So when you go to the store, you're paying for, the artistry of the jewelry.
And wholesale and retail costs are significantly different in that case. Kurt just asked, how is it held in a 401k? It's vaulted, correct?
Yeah, it's all vaulted, and the thing is, you could be monitored 24/7. And if you want to get on the plane, you could get on the plane. I selected this company because of their professionalism and how long they've been in the business of helping people do this. They've been in the business for over 10 years. We'll have the links, for people. Well, of course, we'll have my number too, and I'm also offering a 30-minute consultation to anyone that's been on this call and even recorded, to really go over the ins and outs of your particular position and what you would like to achieve. If you just want to do a physical direct buy of like, 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, I will make the recommendations. If you want to roll over, of course, I'll give you my direct number at Noble Gold Investments and they'll be able to handle it from there. But all the people that decide to do this are going to be really happy in a very short time horizon. Okay. They're not going to
Yeah,
have
the
to wait.
timing matters right now,
Yeah,
correct?
it does. And it's not like I don't want people to think that, I'm creating a FOMO, fear of missing out. A
Right.
lot of people over the years, we're talking like a quarter of a century, I shared with them that this was coming and now it's arrived. Now, I didn't share about my mentor. My mentor's name was Jim Sinclair, and Jim Sinclair was Mr. Gold. He passed away and he was worth $4.5 billion. And he taught me about this market. He taught me about what was coming. You're not going to have to wait 25 years. So the time horizon is very short, but the potential loss given the purchasing power of the US dollar, okay? It's $1 billion a day that it's costing the United States
Right.
just with the war alone. Every 90 days, a trillion gets added to our national debt. And the only way out of this is fixing the liquidity crisis with certain fintech cryptos and precious metals. That's the only way we're getting out of this. So if you want to protect your retirement, you know what to do.
Time estimate this year. Yeah, no, don't wait till December. That would be a terrible idea.
No, 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 no. There's going to be because listen, there's a gentleman by the name of Michael Oliver. This is an incredible analyst of cycles and what's going on, and the new reality in the silver price. I mean, by summer, I'm looking at 150, $200, and right now it's $84. So I'm not speculating. I just see what's happening right now, and I see how many ounces that's in the vault at COMEX. Once the rigging is over,
Which
okay,
will
the
probably be
naked
May, correct?
yeah, so the naked short selling, they're not going to be able to sell anymore. They're not even going to play with the price anymore. So it's going to pop off tremendously. I mean, right now we're $34 over the 1980 high. Okay. I never thought I would see that, but I'm looking at it right now. Now it's regular. I look at the silver price and let me give you some perspective. I was happy with a 50-cent move for the month, and I've seen silver move up to $14 in a day. I never thought in my investing life, holding silver for as long as I have, that I would see a $2 move, a $3 move, a $4 move, a $5 move, a $14 move in one day. Gold has swung hundreds of dollars in a day because of what's going on with the dollar and other geopolitical risks.
So, Katie just asked what might cause silver to go down. Rigging?
Yeah, like for example, I'll tell you why. Okay, when silver went up to 118, okay, the paper shorts, they did what they needed to do and they sold a lot of paper silver that doesn't exist. So that's how they keep the price low because when the price goes above their margin requirements, it gets really expensive for a bank. Okay, now per contract, it's about $37,000 per contract. So they have to stay within the certain margin requirements, or it's very costly for a bank. So on this, the paper price of silver could go down, but the physical price, oh, I want to talk about this really quickly.
Yeah,
The
that's
physical,
huge.
the physical price in Shanghai right now is over $100 an ounce. And right now it's $84 an ounce in the West. So right now, for everyone listening to this, silver is on sale. Okay, silver went as high as 135, $140 in Shanghai. That is the physical price. That is the true global price. So we're at the end of the Western manipulation of the silver price in London and in Chicago.
The house of cards is falling.
Bam.
Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
so it looks like we've covered everything. Again, Ian is offering a free 30-minute consult. That is his phone number. So you can talk to him first. He is going to funnel you through to, there are certain customer service agents that are a little more helpful than
Yeah.
others. And Ian has scoped that all out and gotten that all
All out.
figured out. He can talk to you about 90% about actually getting the silver rounds, about turning or going into, turning over your IRA, your 401k, et cetera, into actual assets. Where do we buy from in Australia? I don't know that answer. Do you know? Could she
Well,
call
there's
Noble Gold and would they be able to make recommendations?
Yeah, well, Noble only sells to Americans and Canadians, but if someone in Australia, the Perth Mint, okay, if you look up the Perth Mint in your country, you'll be able to buy your country's national coin. It's the gold, it's the silver eagle in the United States, the maple in Canada, and I think it's the koala bear in
Yeah, I can't remember. I have some, and I can't
in
remember what it's
Australia.
called.
Yeah, but I mean, listen, this is universal money. It doesn't make a difference what your passport where it says where your country from. This is money. This is money worldwide. So I
Exactly.
hope everyone enjoyed the information tonight.
All right, I think we're good. I think all of our questions are answered. You're welcome, everyone. We appreciate you. I am just going to throw that up because I spent all my time doing this and putting this presentation up, so I might as well promote myself. You can
Way
find
to go, Jody.
at higherlivingjourney.com, and I add all sorts of products. So Ian and I are in partnership on the noble metals, and we also are in partnership in other companies that we work with,
Yep.
superfoods, organic superfoods and supplements, and organic bath and body, and
Mhm.
organic healing things, and all that stuff. That's all on my website. I also do a lot of healing work, health and wellness consulting, trauma release. I have a very unique specialty in trauma release therapy that is very fast and it actually releases trauma permanently. I'm very excited about it. And so check me out, follow me on Facebook. Everybody who is here tonight does already follow me on Facebook, but if you don't, it's Jodi Parker, and you'll see that little butterfly on my cover photo. And I think that's it. Are we good, Melinda? I look forward to the chat. Anything else? Did we get it all?
I think we got it all.
All right, then I am going to stop the recording.